Starmer should go. We the British people can't wait to see the back of this weak, useless git. But JK, I think he will wriggle out of this Mandelson rubbish and cling on like they do. But Paula says, I'm with you and MG. He'll be gone by Christmas. We say a very good afternoon to political editor. Who'd have thought? The young man of all those years ago.
And who do I have to thank for my rise up to the top? One Mr. Jeremy Kyle.
It's very nice to see you. The amazing Jack Elsom. We were already on the phone at whatever time it was this morning. Let's talk about, if we can, the big news today. Tory MP Danny Kruger sensationally quitting. I have been very honest about the fact that I voted Reform, but I also asked the questions, and I just asked Sarah Pochin there. When Christian Wakefield moved from Tory to Labour, Nigel Farage said there should be a by-election. I asked that of Sarah because today Danny Kruger has defected, whilst actually a shadow cabinet minister for the Tories, so a big moment. I thought she answered it very well. She said that the one thing that Danny Kruger said was the party that he stood for on Conservative values are not actually represented by the Tory party anymore. Reform are, whereas changing from Tory to Labour is a massive, massive difference. Good answer, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty important... I'm not disrespecting Nadine Dorries or Jake Berry or anybody like that, but this guy's in the shadow cabinet. For him to stand and say the Tory party's dead, that's pretty damning, isn't it?
And he's also a very serious thinker. And again, no disrespect to Jake Berry or Nadine Dorries, but Danny Kruger's actually got skin in the game. He's currently an elected MP. He was serving as one of Kemi Badenoch's shadow ministers. Probably felt a bit sidelined because he didn't get elevated to the shadow cabinet. He was sort of in the junior ranks of the Tory fold. Many people thought he should be inside because he is just a big brain in the party, one of their best communicators. But, you know, I think that it is going to be a massive blow to Kemi Badenoch because he is someone that is a current Tory MP. So he's actually their first person who has gone from being a sitting Tory MP. Lee Anderson was obviously an independent at the time when he crossed the floor. Danny Kruger is thinking...
Will he have to walk across the floor in front of everybody?
Well, no, because they sit on the same side. They have the opposition side, so there's the government, and then Reform sort of sit just to the left of the Conservatives. But it is a massive blow. Danny Kruger represents sort of the traditional small C Conservatives. He was head of what were called the New Conservatives under Boris Johnson, so this was sort of the 2019ers.
He headed up Jenrick's campaign, didn't he?
He headed up Jenrick's campaign, and I think the most interesting question now will be, what does Robert Jenrick do? Yeah. Because there is a growing sense in the Tory fold that Kemi Badenoch is struggling to turn things around. People thinking we have bias remorse about not electing Robert Jenrick last time round.
Too late.
It was interesting that Danny Kruger said in this press conference that actually he doesn't think that even Robert Jenrick, a good friend and ally of his, can turn this ship around at the moment. But, you know, Kemi Badenoch came out today and said, listen, if you don't like our policies, then you can leave. I do think there is a bit of a contradiction here because clearly there isn't much, I don't think, it'd be interesting to get what you will think about this, there isn't much, I don't think, in terms of policy which really divides the Tories and Reform in terms of what they're saying.
I'll jump straight in. And you know, I did the Reform Party conference last weekend, and I spent a bit of time with Nigel. The difference for me as a voter is simply this, or a broadcaster. Not only do I feel like he talks about the things that people are concerned about, he hasn't spent 12 months saying, I'm trying to look at where we could have won more seats. He reads the room. I think why he is leading so well is because people believe, Jack, that he's got either the cojones or the kamikaze approach, whatever you want, to actually do what he says he's going to do. And we all look enviously, whether we hate the orange man baby or not, all of us look at some part of America, right, and go, what he's done, what he said, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, he's done exactly what he said. I was reading the other day, in America, last January, February, March, 380,000 people got in 12 weeks on the southern border. January, February, March, since Trump got in?
Yep, hardly anything.
500,
hardly any.
So love him or loathe him, and half of America loathes him, he's doing. I think we crave that, so many of us in this country. I think we are fed up with people who pretend to be squeaky clean and perfect, and they have to resign, and it's jobs for them. I just think that the United Kingdom is going to go, he ran a successful business, he's put his neck above the thing, let's give him a go. Could it be any worse? That's what I think.
I totally agree. I think that is the main difference. It's that authenticity and the actual people buy into your project. Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage could basically say the exact same thing.
I don't get what her gut says. I get the feeling like with Starmer, well, probably Starmer's a different subject, that it's all about focus groups. I haven't heard her go, do you know what? I see her read at Prime Minister's Question Times. I see her read all the time, and I think, yeah, that sounds very good and well prepared, but it doesn't. Your word is great. It's not organic, it's not authentic, it's not real.
And people want their leaders to reflect the angers and frustrations which they share. And that is what Nigel is just absolutely adept at doing. And you take into the fact that he doesn't have the 14 years of baggage, because it is very easy for Kemi Badenoch, who sat around the cabinet table, to say, we're going to get a grip of migration, we're going to solve the economy. But actually, and to her, if I was going to put her side across, she would say that she wasn't the leader, and if you're the leader, often you sort of have to sort of go along.
Could have resigned, Jenrick did.
And this is the point, isn't it? And what is Jenrick going to do now? Because that is the crucial question. Does he make a move against Kemi Badenoch? At the moment, he is saying that he is going to be staying inside the tent. But if more and more Tories go, then there's going to be massive pressure on him to sort of be the standard bearer.
Can you ever see him going to reform?
I don't think that he'll go to reform, because I think there's too much bad blood between them. Him and Nigel Farage have, sparred quite a lot. But I think that, there will be a time that maybe come, and lots of Tories that are privately telling me, when this happened, by the way, phone blowing up with Tory MPs, both past and present, saying that if the May election go bad for the Tories, similarly, if they go bad for Keir Starmer, then both of them will be in real trouble. And you can see a situation where the Tories are pushed into fourth in both Scotland and Wales.
Who was it the other day? I can't remember. My brain's not that good. And he said, it was a Tory, and he basically, sorry, it sounds very disrespectful, but he said to me, and if it continues to go bad for Starmer in the May elections, they'll be down to 15%. And I went, and you'll be second on 18. That's not good, is it?
I think that's optimistic, if I'm honest.
Yeah, listen, and let's talk about stuff. I love your thoughts on what Jack said. 0344 499 1000. You are involved in the murky politics, the murkiness of politics. But honestly, I have listened to MG tell me that this guy is rubbish and can't succeed, and I bought into that. This Mandelson thing, right? I've heard that McSweeney was close to Mandelson, one of his protégés, and he even wanted to make him Foreign Secretary. I read over the weekend that while Starmer was doing whatever, Mandelson's in days before the reshuffle with McSweeney for hours. What has Peter Mandelson got on them all? Does he know where the bodies are buried? Because I don't understand how anybody... And now today Starmer's going, well, I wouldn't have given him a job if I'd known. Isn't it your job as Prime Minister to know?
Well, two things going on here. Why was he appointed in the first place? It seems to me that Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney are obsessed with Tony Blair and the Blairites, obsessed with them. They see them as the glory days of Labour government, proper winners. Tony Blair won 3 general elections, and if you look at who he's put into his top team, it's absolutely stuffed from retreads from the new Labour era, Peter Mandelson being one of them, no matter all of the baggage that comes with that, because let's not forget, Tony Blair sacked Peter Mandelson twice in different forms of sleaze scandals.
Likes the pound note, doesn't he?
Different forms of sleaze scandals.
Yeah.
It was then known and well documented, his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which continued after Jeffrey Epstein's conviction. I think, to Peter Mandelson's credit, he did manage to actually forge a pretty good relationship with Donald Trump and managed to make Keir Starmer and Donald Trump have quite a good relationship in his time there. But the question comes down now to Keir Starmer's judgment, because when he stood at the dispatch box of the House of Commons on Wednesday and said that Peter Mandelson retained his full confidence, he knew the emails that Peter Mandelson had sent to Jeffrey Epstein were being put into the public domain. And so why on earth, when he knew that these emails were going to come out, did he not think, hang on a minute, before I go and tell the country that I'm sticking by this man, who we know already has a pretty murky relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, maybe I should find out from the Foreign Office, which had these emails, what exactly is in them.
Well,
and it's that astounding lack of curiosity.
I'll put curiosity or experience or just intelligence. I'll put this to you as the political edge of the sun, right? Labour MPs are saying gone by May. Would it not be fair to say that a man who has stood up on numerous occasions, and quite rightly it turns out, said, to Boris Johnson, you lied about this, if he knew he misled the House of Commons? Dan Hodges wrote, and I know I keep throwing it out there, but Dan Hodges wrote this morning, there's 2 options left, right? Either you fall on your sword for misleading Parliament,
or you chuck an advisor under the bus,
or you sack Morgan McSweeney. I think he'd be scared to sack Morgan McSweeney because they're all tied in together for the very reasons that you say.
Yeah, and I think that Morgan McSweeney and Keir Starmer's fates politically are fairly intertwined. Morgan McSweeney is probably the driving force in government who's given Keir Starmer probably an ideological North Star as such. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, what you say in the House of Commons, and I know that like it might seem trivial to the outside, but it really matters in terms of misleading the House. And this is the point that Dan Hodges made. And you also know that if the shoe was on the other foot, and that if Keir Starmer was leading the opposition, and someone like, let's say, Boris Johnson had misled the House of Commons, he would be going hammer and tong. That's exactly what did happen, obviously, under Boris Johnson. You know, the fact that he was economical with the truth in Parliament was ultimately his undoing. And so you can see a situation now where there's runs and runs and runs. Just while we came on air, Emily Thornberry, who's the chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, absolutely no fan of Keir Starmer whatsoever, is using her committee to demand a formal hearing about the appointment of Peter Mandelson in the first place. And so Keir Starmer now is facing having to answer more questions about this, all in the week of Donald Trump's state visit. And, you know, we know the problems he's having.
And this afternoon, 2 hours ago, a senior Starmer aide resigns over sexual and lurid comments about Diane Abbott. I'll keep really quiet. There must have been an interesting conversation. I mean, to me, they are out to get him. Labour MPs saying, unless by May, you change it. The guy's judgment is completely and utterly under the cosh, and it's understandable. And who'd have thought, like a year ago, we were saying 180 seats, 170-something seats.
Yeah.
I mean, he's messed it up. But I did say at the time, if you invite, I remember saying it to you, if you invite so many people into your tent, you spend all your time trying to please all the people, you end up on your arse. There's no way you can make it work.
But I think that all governments have scandal, right? Totally. It is one, how you react to them, I think, which really sort of sets the tone, but also they're not excusable, but they will be less damaging if you weren't so vulnerable with a massive flop in the polls. Yeah. The fact that migration is ripping.
Oh, we
the
should
fact that the
notice,
economy
we
is
should
absolutely
say,
shot.
Let's be fair to Labour. Today is the start of the first Channel migrants being returned to France. You know, the one in, one out that turned into 2,500 in and one out. I don't understand. See, that's how much has been going on. Just very quickly, because I know you're very busy. Andy Burnham, lots of the press over the weekend that the Mayor of Manchester has set up a sort of policy unit. He's backing Lucy Powell and the deputy leadership because, you know, she's his person, and that he's going to get into the Commons and take Starmer on.
So the interesting this one, I think Andy Burnham likes being this sort of king over the water. Yeah. Who, you know, potentially could come back and save the Labour Party. I mean, first of all, he needs to find a seat, and one, there's no vacancy, and he needs to find a seat which Reform wouldn't win in the by-election.
And they would in Manchester, by the way, right now. That's a real thing.
And this is the problem, isn't it? He would have to stand in Manchester, obviously, because he's the mayor of Manchester.
He's not going to win in Manchester.
But if you look at some of the polling up there, Nigel Farage could beat him up there. And so I don't think at the moment it would be really in his interest to come down to Westminster and try and fight a seat in Manchester.
Do you see Starmer lasting?
I don't know, because the Parliamentary Labour Party notoriously are very reluctant in ousting their leaders. Labour MPs have never in their history got rid of a Labour leader. They've always fallen at elections or whatever. And so I think that while there is a lot of commentary and a lot of anger amongst large parts of the Parliamentary Party, don't underestimate that a lot of the new intake especially are still quite loyal to him. Yep. And it would take a large bar, I think, to really get that. And so at the moment, I'm still not convinced.
Until they get to the point in 2 years' time or a year's time when they look at the polls and they go, I'm going to lose my job.
But there's also no one really in the Parliamentary Party currently waiting in the wings. There's no sort of big
just said to me, we get
figure.
David Lammy. Are you joking?
I'm not sure David Lammy would go for it. I'm not sure they would accept David Lammy. But again, there's not a real figure at the moment. I mean, Wes Streeting is probably the most obvious, but the membership aren't too keen on him because, rightly, he's gone to war with the unions, and all the Labour members, they love unions. And so there's not really anyone at the moment who I think fits the bill.
Mate, great to have you on, and I really appreciate it. Interesting times, isn't it?
Very interesting
times, visit as well. That'll be interesting with Donald. You'd be covering that, won't you?
Yeah, I'm off to Chequers on Thursday for the press conference.
I've got to stay late and work on your ex-colleague Harry Cole's American show because of all of that. He's wafting it around London.
He is. I've just seen him.
Good man. Listen, the amazing Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you very much indeed. Political editor of The Sun.